I've had a request for a custom shongo, so I had the guy send me a sketch, and I put it into Inkscape and made it life size and traced out the pattern. Took like 4 sheets of paper. But there's some extra interesting things on this. He wants all those edges ground on it. Most of it will be sharpened. And he also wants those hieroglyphics or little symbols and stuff etched in there into the finished piece. So quite a fun project. Now that I've got this ready, I can go put it on the AR400 sheet with magnets and trace it out and cut it out by hand. Here I've got this paper pattern taped down to the piece of steel. I have little magnets for this, but I can't find them. But I don't have time to look either. So we'll just trace this out with a silver Sharpie because it gives nice contrast. And I'll fill in the spots where the tape was when I get it done. There it is. Now that I've got this out of the vinegar and cleaned up with the Scotch-Brite, you guys have, there's other videos where like the original Hungamunga I made, I believe, or at least the first shongo or Kpinga, the regular version, not this custom one, where you see me spraying off the oxide and wiping it down with the Scotch-Brite. Now I'm going to clean up the profile because I hand cut this. Oh, it's cold out here. It's -6 outside. But I left this a little wide. It would compensate for any steel that got the carbon burned out of it while I was plasma cutting it. With the water table and the other stuff, that's not an issue, but since this wasn't cut on a water table, it could be a possibility. So I've got my paper pattern here as a reference, and I'm just going to go take all this kerf, the kerf and slag. The slag's pretty much eaten off. I'm just going to clean up the edge all nice all the way around. And then what I'm going to actually do is probably take measurements off this, or actually cut out the guidelines for the bevels, and then stick this back on there and draw out my lines for my bevels. We'll see how it goes. Oh, another quick little note. I made a welder-ish tripod for that thing because I got sick of putting it on a step ladder or the lawnmower handle. Here's our profile. Nice and clean. Probably still too hot to touch. Where I last ground it. Move this out of the way here. And there they are together. So now, oops. Take this and stick it on here like such. Got sharp edges and hot places and all kinds of things going on here. It's still cold in here. Okay, so now I have to, sharpen all these areas. And these aren't so hard. This can be done on the belt grinder, out here. But like in here, that's all got to be done with the angle grinder or such. I don't know. I really like this profile here for a little spike. He drew a nice weapon. So that'll be the next step. I may have to go warm up my feet first. I came into the house where I could warm up my feet, and I took the pattern and a Sharpie and traced out my lines for my bevels. And yeah, we'll try it and we'll keep checking it to the picture I got in the drawing. Of course, he sent me a 2-dimensional drawing, and oftentimes it's hard to get the same effects in a 3-dimensional object because it depends on how fast these get sharp, how wide those bevels are to a certain extent. I can get pretty close, but at a certain point, my angles have to be just right. Otherwise, I'm gonna to get ground back to that mark. It's gonna get sharp. If it gets too sharp too fast, well, then the bevel's not gonna be as wide as he wants it. So, just gotta take it slow, get them established, and then take them all the way out to the edge. I really do love this little spur here. Man, that's a mean looking little thing. Yeah. So I'll go warm up the shop and freeze my feet off for a couple more hours. It's supposed to be 30 degrees tomorrow for a high, so it will get better. I'd like to shift this out pretty quick. He's been waiting a little while. Here we've got the edges pretty much roughed in. Maybe a little bit more to do on that. Get the bevel back where I want it. It looks like it's going to work out okay. That's vicious. Of course, they're very coarse scratches right now. I'm using like a 40 grit wheel. I'll refine it as I go. I just wanted to get it established before my marks disappeared. And after I get that cleaned up a little bit, I'll do the other side and show you guys again. That little guy froze up. So over lunch break, I'll recharge him. But, yeah, it's still probably 8 degrees this morning. It won't get 30 until about 2 o'clock this afternoon. We've got the edges established on both sides. And now I'm just coming, let's see if it's cold enough. We want it, so it's still a little too warm to touch. I should probably do this without gloves because I don't want to burn the carbon out of it. But no blue lines yet. So anyway, my point is, so I established the line going from the bevel going from the line to the edge, and now I'm just how do I say this? Rounding it toward the edge so that it's got a convex geometry to it, like any other sword or axe. But I'm doing kind of a very slight convex. It's just to give it as much strength as I can on the points in particular, because as we know, that's where it strikes. And then to give it at least a hope of sticking in something as well. Very much like a tomahawk edge. I'm very happy with the way it's turning out. After I get this polished up, I'm using a new 40 grit right now because it's nice and flat and straight, and it gives me these nice edges, I guess, starts and stops. Another thing I have to do is clean up this sharp edge in here, and then I nicked it with the die grinder. Then wherever I put, I could use leather, but there's no point since I have to sand it all down anyway. Everywhere the clamp goes, there's some scratches too, but all that'll be taken out because this has to be 120 grit all over the surface because I have to etch it. Well, it's sanded and ready to do the etch. I'll have to do some final polishing after the etch anyway. So what I did was I took my measurements and using my paper template from earlier, I figured out what size the graphics needed to be. And I had everything I thought nested pretty well, but apparently the Cricut design space nests it by itself, and it will not let you change it. That I don't know how to change it. So instead of fitting everything on one sheet, it's going to make me use two. Just the way it is. So I'm going to start it off, and sorry about the shaky. We'll go continue, and it's going to do some thinking. And all I got to do is press go. Trying to get some reasonably close-up footage here. Cutting this in his leg. Hopefully it doesn't mess up. This is the part I want to really see. You can faintly see it. Try to catch the light. There you go. You can see the zigzag get cut. Now it's working on the more defined graphics. Here it is weeded, ready for the masking tape to go on. Pretty intricate little design. Those are just squigglies, pretty straightforward. So now I'm going to put the masking tape down, use a plastic card to squish it in there really good, and then I'll remove this and cut the stickers out. I've noticed leaving it on the sticky mat helps a lot when it comes to weeding and then applying the masking tape and all that stuff, and then actually keeping it all straight instead of rolling up, because it really likes to roll. I've got one side or one vinyl sheet laid out, stuck on there. Now I'm just doing some more of the squigglies. But I find it's easier to get them lined up if I take and trace the outline of the piece on top of the masking tape or transfer tape. If I had transfer tape, it wouldn't be such a big deal. I could see through it. But since we're going cheap on this one, for the next etch project, I want real transfer tape, I think. It's worth a try. I'm not impressed with how this thing nests. That might just be a learning curve, because there's a lot of wasted vinyl here. I can maybe use it to do other things with later, but it's going to be a pain to line it all up and figure out what'll fit. But, yep. I've even got my logo I'm going to hide under the leather handle. After a ridiculously long time getting everything lined up, stuck down, and masked off, we're ready to go downstairs and do the etch. There's a close-up of the details. And on this side, same song with the addition of my little logo. So I'm set up downstairs. Refer to the last episode of the Patah series for the etching. All I do is take a cotton ball full of salt water, hook to the negative side of a battery charger, hook the blade to the positive side, and just 5-second or 30-second intervals at 5 volts until I get it as deep as I want it. I'll show you when I got all the tape tore off and when it's all done. Hopefully this works out well. I am so glad I didn't sharpen this razor sharp. Yeah, I'd have been cut to pieces trying to get all this on there. It was intense, but I got all the symbols etched in. All the way up. And we'll flip it over. And this design is mirrored on the back side. Plus my touch mark in the handle. There's a few places where you can see shadows where the salt solution leaked under the tape. Luckily it's not near as deep as it'll sand right off. It's not near as deep as the actual pattern I intended. But yeah, there it is. Look, get some light on here. There it is done. All the eyeballs and stuff on there. Now I just got to wrap the handle. Well, I got to do I'm going to hand sand it real good, then wrap the handle. And then and then what that'll do is take those, I call them tattoos, those marks that I didn't want there. That'll buff those out. And then we'll, at the same time, hone the edge a little more. And then we'll wrap the handle. It's all finished. The engraving's done. The final polish is done. The honing is done. And the leather handle is wrapped. All finished. I'm so happy to see this on both sides engraved. Just gotta box it off and ship it out. Yeah, whoops. Just gotta box it up and ship it out.